The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, this is just a quick audio check. If you can hear me, could you please type yes in the chat box? Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the live webinar on Little Surprising Secrets of Leading in a Digital World by Mr. R. Pittman. This webinar is arranged by Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MAL. I'm Ali Jafri, representing MAL, and will be moderating this webinar this evening. Just a quick introductory word. Mr. R. Pittman is an executive coach, an experienced leadership consultant, and a professional trainer and facilitator. He has worked with leaders of global companies, information technology, engineering, manufacturing, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals, as well as in higher education, U.S. national, state, and local governments. As a coach, Mr. R works with leaders, senior leaders, and executives on how to adopt a supportive, inclusive, and independent leadership style by focusing on a variety of 21st century leadership skills like transparency, accountability, and agility. He earned a BA in biology at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and his master's in counseling at Wake Forest University. He is an associate certified coach with the International Coaching Federation, a certified professional in agile coaching and facilitation with the International Consortium on Agile and National Certified Counselor at USA. This presentation by Mr. Pittman will be for about 35 to 40 minutes, so I request you to please hold your questions till he finishes the presentation, and then we'll open the floor for question and answers. In the end, let me go and make him a presenter. So just bear with us for a few seconds. Hello, Mr. Pittman. I've just sent you a request to accept and show your screen.
Good morning. We should be presenting.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Pittman. Oh, perfect. So we can see your screen. We have your well-established audio. So the floor is all yours. Please proceed with the presentation. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I am so pleased to be joining you this afternoon there. It's a beautiful, bright morning here, although hovering right around 0 degrees. And so I feel very blessed to be able to present one of my favorite topics, the surprising little secret of leading in a digital world. As Mr. Ali says, I will present for about 35 or 40 minutes. If you have questions after that, I would love to talk about this topic. First things first, of course, I do thank the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship. I'm very grateful for this privilege and honor to be sharing with the folks, great folks at Madinah Institute and all your fine esteemed colleagues there. My objectives and agenda I have set out as questions. So one of the first questions is, who is Art? I'll do a quick bio of who I am. Then we'll get right into what is the surprising little secret. And like most webinars and educational presentations, it's a lot less about learning new information and more about being reminded about things we already knew. I will go into what does it mean to lead, what does it mean to be a digital organization, a few slides on that, and what is the new role of a 21st century leader? And we may visit that by going backwards in time. Fifth thing we're going to talk about is key differences between managing and leading. And then what are some specific leadership behaviors I can adopt? What's a supportive mindset to empower my people to foster innovation? What does it mean to be a coach? We'll explore that. And then finally, what is a webinar? What value does a webinar bring if it doesn't bring you your next steps? So I have some ideas for you for your next steps, but this is about you. So you can choose those next steps. And then we'll go through some questions. I hope they're questions. If they're not questions, then I might not be presenting enough information to bring value. So here we go. Let's get started about who I am and my background. There's my picture. As Mr. Ali said, I'm an executive coach with the Center for Creative Leadership on London Financial Times. It's the number 6 organization listed there. Notice it's the only non-business school. They're a global organization in Americas, APAC, and EMEA. So I do executive coaching through them. And in my business, I'm the CEO of Interjoining LLC. We also do leadership consulting and coaching. So of those two things, I'm an executive coach and a leadership consulting. That's one piece of me. The second piece of me, as you found out, I worked at Wake Forest University in higher education. I got my master's at that department of counseling there. I had an opportunity to get an MBA, like all fine rising stars, and I chose to go counseling. And that one of the reasons was, 2 reasons. One is it helped me with my role as a project manager and a senior manager. Second thing is in the Department of Counseling, we got to do a lot of research. And so we have a library there, access to many journals, many business magazines. I looked at many of them for this presentation. I didn't read them all. But it helps adjust my academic mindset and research. So the second thing is, the third thing is my Scrum background. So we have Scrum.org and Scaled Agile and the International Consortium for Agile. We're not going to dip into the Agile transformation work that I'm doing now, but if your organization is undergoing a digital transformation, Agile can certainly be a piece of that. And given my IT background and experience, that is also a piece of my background. So that's the 3 pieces that make up who I am: coaching and leadership, academic mindset, and my Agile experience. So let's go right into answering the actual question of the webinar. What is the surprising little secret? And for that, I'll walk through a couple of companies and provide a little bit of evidence for you. But I think it's something that we already know. And if you read my bio and you read the intro to this, you know what the answer is. The surprising little secret of leading in a digital world can be boiled down to the surprising little secret of information technology. And this, according to Harvard Business Review, information technology at its core is a people business. It is all about people. So let's walk through a couple of companies, global companies. Toyota Way, they have 2 pillars. One is respect for all people. And when they say people, they mean their customers, their vendors that supply them parts, and their employees. And their second pillar is the continuous improvement of their processes. We're speaking today about that first pillar, respect for all people. So Toyota, it's good enough for Toyota. It's good enough for me. So 3 other companies that we're going to pop up here: LinkedIn, Google, and Sony, all global companies. And here from Reid Hoffman and Ben Casanancha, they are founders of LinkedIn. Relationships matter to your career, no matter the because ultimately every job boils down to interact with people. And then from Google, Bill Duane, who's one of the lead engineers there at Google, business is a machine made out of people. If you have people, and from Sony, to establish a work where engineers can feel the joy of technological innovation, be aware of the mission to society, and work to their heart's content. So even in the early days, back in Sony, one of the first purposes of incorporation was it was about the engineers. 3 more quotes to solidify this concept of the little surprising secret. Clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. And this is by Richard Branson. And we know him of his airline fame of Virgin Airlines and his Virgin records starting back in my age, back in the 70s. And so he's quite a mover and shaker across the world. Zig Ziglar, the second quote is, you don't build a business, you build people. And then people build the business. So Ziglar was another world famous motivational speaker. He's from down south here in the US in Yazoo City, Mississippi. But his focus was all about building people. And finally, Simon Sinek, who's moving into the realm that Zig Ziglar says, 100% of your customers are people. 100% of your employees are people. And if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. So the theme, if you're not getting it, the theme of the surprising little secret is people. After all, people do the work and computers just take orders. And so I say again, people do work and computers just take orders. The surprising little secret of leading in a digital world and the surprising little secret of information technology is it's all about people. So I move now to what does it mean to be a digital organization? And here I did a little bit of research on this. Digital organizations in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see from Gartner of just this year, they did a survey and 42% of the CEOs have already begun a digital business transformation. This is not IT, a business transformation. On their priority list, number 2 are IT changes, which are going to help transform their business into an IT-related business. And if you look at global companies ranked by market cap, 6 of the top 11 companies are technology companies. That's over 55%. And my quote is, if you aren't working at a digital company now, you probably soon will. And one of the things that webinars give you that you can't do in person is, I don't know your industry. I know there are a lot of people on the line here listening in the kingdom and in other places across the world. I'd be really interested in find out what your industry is. Is it government? Is it fossil fuels? Is it education? Is it some other industry? But I'm curious, maybe it's healthcare. If you aren't working in a digital company now, you probably will be. Another piece of research I did, I pulled out of MIT, the Sloan Management School. They're saying in their research, digital technologies will disrupt practically every industry. Right? Over 90% believe it'll happen in their sector. And most business leaders nowadays see that as an opportunity and not necessarily as a threat. So what does it take to be a leader? It does not require a technologist at the helm. It requires somebody a little bit different. So digital leaders have 3 keys. Again, this is thanks to the MIT Sloan School of Management. Ability to inspire, ability to manage complexity, and ability to develop a distinct digital culture for rapidly changing environments. There's one we do know about technology and being digital, is it changes so rapidly. And there is the quote, one of their final quotes. Soft skills trump technology knowledge in driving digital transformation. And why is that? Because of the surprising little secret. It's all about people. And part of the people is the philosophy and a mindset. And this is from another research article, what it really means to be a digital organization from 2015. The user comes first, period. If it doesn't work for the customer, it simply doesn't work. And that's a mindset shift. Your customers expect you to be online, expect your website to work, expect your automated systems to work, and all sorts of other automated things. The customers expect it. And this from the article is a quote from Amazon. Focus on the user, even though it will require more work by you as an organization. So being a digital company is about honoring the surprising little secret. It's honoring people, and your customers are people. Your employees are people. So I move now into the role of the 21st century leader. But if we'll start in the 21st century leadership, I go back to the 6th century before the Common Era leadership. And this, if you'll notice in the right-hand corner, this by Lao Tzu, one of my favorite quotes of leadership ever. A leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. So that was the chant 500 years before the Common Era, and now it's in 21st century, 2100 years past the Common Era. This is now the quote. Let me show you a little bit of a command control diagram. And this is from C Point Center for Collaborative Leadership. For a number of years, almost since my entire life, leaders have been leading this way from top down. Senior leaders push messages and information down to managers, who push it down to supervisors, who push it down to the front line, right? That's the command control, and that is an old way of behaving and leading. I suggest the 21st century way is the inverted pyramid, where senior managers are supporting managers, and the managers are supporting their supervisors, and their supervisors are supporting their front line. And not pictured here, who does the front line workers support? Who is that direct interaction? And if you said customers, you're absolutely correct. So in a sense, that inverted pyramid, senior managers, all the way up to the front line to your customers, and that's the new paradigm. That's the 21st century leadership. That is collaborative and supportive. So since we're talking about 21st leadership, let's also move into the differences between managing and leading. Management on the right, leadership on the right, on the management on the left, excuse me, leadership on the right. So management is a function versus leadership, which is a relationship. And you see the other: planning, budgeting, evaluating, facilitating. Those are all management activities. Am I saying, you do not hear me say, get rid of all your managers. You do need managers in order to run a digital organization. But you also need leadership. And that's about selecting talent and motivating and coaching and building trust. Managing is on the left, telling, directing, etc. Leading is on the right, delegating, supporting, facilitating. And a couple other papers, this one from 2013, talking about the roles of the middle managers. It's very challenging to be a middle manager, right? So we have to be agents of change, focus of change, acquire greater and greater responsibility and empowerment. Often, organizational performance is heavily influenced by what happens in this middle management role. And it's a very difficult role. Paper number 2 would suggest that the pressures on middle management, this is from 2011, they must simultaneously handle implementing changes, keeping your senior managers happy, and what else? Addressing interest and anxiety of employees. So you have to lead up and lead down and lead across the organization. They must be able to process unstructured streams of information and find solutions under conditions of unclear cause and effect relationships. If you're a middle manager, do you know that's what you did? So that is what middle managers do. And it's all about people and how do you do that? What's the best for the organization? So this is a quote from Jim Clifton from the Gallup Incorporated, which is a global surveying company. They have many, many answers in their database, but Jim Clifton says, beyond a doubt, the single biggest decision to make in your job, bigger than the rest, is who you name as manager. If you name the wrong person as manager, nothing fixes that bad decision, not compensation, not benefits, nothing. In the report, and it's a very interesting report, they go on to say that people will join an organization because they believe in the organization, but they may leave because of your manager. This happened to me at a global open source company. I love the company. I joined, and a year later, I found out my manager wasn't giving me the time. He wasn't developing me as a manager. And so I chose to leave. So these next two slides are from the Center for Creative Leadership and a global organization for executive education. Here's what they say about leadership. It's a social process, enables people to work together as a cohesive group to produce collective results. And a group can be as small as a team, 2 to 3 to 10 member teams, to departments, a business unit of hundreds to thousands of people, to communities. So this is leadership defined. It's a social process. Work together as a cohesive group to deliver collective results. Here's what they say about leadership, the process. Again, Center for Creative Leadership. It's about 3 things. It's about delivering outcomes on 3 things. Direction is the first one. Is there group agreement on goals? Is there a vision, a desired future, a set of goals everyone can buy into that all members of collectively can easily articulate? And people agree on what collective success looks like. That is direction. So that's the first thing, direction. The next is alignment. And it's all about coordination of the shared work. Is everyone clear about each other's roles? Have they figured out a sense of organization and coordination and synchronization across the organization? That's a leadership process. 3 things: direction, second thing, alignment, third thing is commitment. And this is where you get into group trust and motivation and responsibility. People want to help people give their extra effort needed for the group to succeed. Is there that sense of trust, and people express considerable passion and motivation for that work? And I might say accountability too. So the Center for Creative Leadership defines leadership as a process. You will know you're a good, successful leader when you have evidence of these 3 outcomes. In other words, ask any member of your group, where are you going? What's the vision? Direction? How well do you work with other members of the group? Are you aligned? And how often do you give that extra effort? Are you committed? That's leadership. Evidence of that is outcome right there. So that's leadership. As we move on, and this is where it starts to get from conceptual, we have that direction, alignment, commitment, that DAC, D-A-C, to now specific leadership behaviors. And what are some of those that you can adopt that will help support a mindset shift, that will help empower your people, that will foster innovation across your organization, and it will help coach your junior leaders to become senior leaders? So I'm going back to Gallup. Again, they did their global survey, and they have found out engaged employees produce better business outcomes. At the end of the day, if you're business, you need to have better business outcomes. No margin and no mission for your business. And their conclusions came across industry. Doesn't matter how big the size was, didn't matter the nationality. And good economic times are bad economic times. Their conclusions are engaged employees produce better results. And one final thought, managers must become coaches. And I'm an executive coach, and I often work with clients and C-suite and senior team members who want their managers to become coaches. And we talked earlier about management. Management is important, but it's not the only thing. That will not get your company from where you are now, what got you here, to that next level of digital organization. And the coach skill. So here's the quote from their final outcomes. You move from performance management to performance development. This requires you as managers and leaders to see themselves in a new way. You got to go from being the boss to being the coach. Again, so we're going to step through this just a little bit here. Again, the theme for the whole entire day is the surprising little secret. That is, it's all about people and not technology. And this is a focus. Boss move from manager to coach. So this was wonderful research that has just came out earlier this year from Google. It's based on the number of years they've done research. Project Aristotle, I believe it was. The 8 habits of highly effective managers. And we're going to start at the bottom. So this is Google, a global technology company, probably the largest one. If it by market cap, it might be Apple. Maybe Alibaba's up there, but this is the 8 habits of managers at Google. Number 8, the 8 key skills to have technical skills, right? So you can help advise a team. That's 8 on the list. Don't you wonder what number 1 is, what we're building there? Have a clear vision and strategy for the team. Well, we talked a little bit about that with our direction, our outcome from the Center for Creative Leadership. That's that D for direction in DAC. Have a clear vision and strategy for the team. 6, help your employee with career development. Doesn't help to have people on board if you can help them grow. And that's what was my experience at the open source company, where my manager wasn't developing me as a manager or as a leader. That's number 6 in the top 8. Number 5, be a good communicator. Listen and share information. I had a group of senior leaders once talk to me as a part of a project management organization. They said, when in doubt, over communicate. And what the senior leadership team was asking is for me to tell them information, but they didn't need to tell me information because they were the leaders. So in the 21st century digital organization, communication has to go both up the chain and down the chain. And at Google, they say being a good communicator, listen and sharing information is on their top 5 list of what they require for managers at Google. Number 4, as you would expect, be productive and results oriented. That's really the management piece of it. A lot of these others look, so 4 and 7 feels like 4 and 8 feel like management pieces. 5, 6, and 7 look like leadership pieces to me. Top 3, express interest in employee success and well-being. You got to care about your people. If nothing else, I hope you leave this webinar with the sense that your people are important. How you develop them as a leader is important as well. Empower your team and don't micromanage. I can't tell you how many coaches, how many clients I've had who come to me and, hey, they get a 360 feedback instrument back. And that 360 feedback is where your managers and your senior managers, as well as your peers and your direct reports, fill out a feedback instrument. And I can't tell you how many times I've across the table from a leader who says, my team says I'm micromanaging. Help me figure out how to be better leader and not micromanager. So Google, they do not want you to micromanage. They want you to trust your team. And the number one skill or behavior and habit of effective managers at Google is be a good coach. So these are the top 5. As we look through these, there's many things that resonate from me, but I've highlighted those in red that I think are more coach-oriented and less management-oriented. To coach, empower, express interest in well-being, good communicator, listens and shares information, help employee with career development. The other pieces are good management focus. And notice how Google has the blend of both those things. So now I want to get into what is coaching. Since we throw this word out a lot, what is coaching defined? So the International Coach Federation, that's a symbol for it in the lower right-hand corner. It's a global organization. Its mission is to help spread the word and advocate for and educate future coaches. They have a 3-tiered certification process. I'm an associate certified coach, which is that first tier. They have professional certified and master certified. I'm very close to being a professionally certified coach through the International Coach Federation. But here's what they say about coaching. Coaching is defined as partnering with clients, thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. So this is what coaching is. This is not the management piece of your role in your organization. This is the coaching piece where you help develop them as people and you see their high potential and you help grow them as individuals. Again, this whole webinar theme is about the surprising little secret, and that is it's all about people. So I'm going to walk you through a potential coaching conversation you can have later on this afternoon. And it's a 5-step process, and it starts this way. First, you have to care about people. You have to care about your people you're going to coach. In order to have empathy, which is a key skill of a coach, you must care about the person in front of you. That's first and foremost, care about your people. Number 2, ask open-ended questions. Now, if we were having a give and take, if we're in the room together, I'd ask you what an open-ended question is. Do you know what an open-ended question is? And that question, of course, is a closed-ended question. A closed-ended question is something that gives you quick answers, yes or no answers, something somebody can answer very quickly and easily, and that doesn't get them thinking. It's not thought-provoking. You ask open-ended questions, and for your coaching conversation, I'd ask that you do them one at a time. You ask one open-ended question, and then just be quiet and listen. What this does is it gives control of the conversation to the person receiving the question. So in that way, you're going from command control, I own the conversation, to supportive and collaborative, where I'm giving you control of the conversation and you take it where you want it to go. Right? This also shows a lot of respect for the other individual you're talking with. So first thing to do is care. Second thing is ask open-ended questions. And third thing is, I alluded to it later, is listen. Listen with purpose, and you listen for direction of the conversation. How many of you have had a conversation lately with somebody either at work or at home where you could just tell that what they were doing is waiting for you to stop talking so that they can jump in and give you what it was that they were thinking, right? So I have I have close family members who do this to me all the time. And it's hard sometimes when you have that close relationship to just be quiet and listen. But for you, I'd ask, listen for direction and listen for purpose. And what I've had down here is validate feelings, respond, and summarize content. And this is a coaching conversation. You care about somebody, you ask open-ended questions, and you listen for what it is they're telling you. And a lot of times, just validating what it is they're feeling, responding and summarizing the content that you heard. That is the process of listening. I don't have it with me today, but the International Listening Association talks about what listening is, and it's taking in information through verbal and nonverbal cues, making meaning from it, and then responding to the person who was talking. And that's a 3-step process. That's how I know you have heard me. And the unfortunate thing about doing a webinar is I don't know if you have heard me. I hope I'm still online. It looks like my GoToMeeting is still going. And so there's no feedback cycle. But when you're across the table from somebody or walking down the street, you can have a coaching conversation. So care about your people, ask open-ended questions, listen for direction, and did I mention care about your people? It's really a fundamental concept and fundamental to where we have to be. And one way to understand what a coach conversation would be is be interested in that other person. Don't try to be interesting in sharing your knowledge. So here is the objectives and agenda. We have just 2 bullet points left. What are my next steps? And then we'll summarize what we talked about, and then we'll go right into questions. What are your potential next steps? And this is Art Pittman over here in North Carolina, thinking that these might be potential next steps. I would want you to take home something that is meaningful to you and your organization. So I would say know your customers. If you're going to be a digital organization, I say get to know your customers. Once you know your customers, relentlessly give them what they want. And this is not give them what you think they want. This is give them what they want. And to do that, you have to do a lot of surveying, a lot of polling, and getting out on the street and on the internet and understand what your customers really want. This could be a very good next step for you. And for me, since I'm a leadership consultant, I would ask you to focus on your leadership outcomes. Again, we talked about direction, alignment, and commitment. If you manage a team, or if you work with a team, or work with a small business unit or another group, or maybe it's a community group, would it be interesting to understand from them where they think the direction is, what they think the direction, the purpose of that group is, and how do they communicate and get organized across the different groups that they're a part of, and how committed are they to see that vision through, that direction through. Those are 3 outcomes, and that would be for me, I would want for you is to focus on leadership outcomes. If you're wanting your organization to be more of a digital organization, I would define a digital transformation vision. I think that's key. That would be your number 1 first step. And in order to do that, I would ask to get your employees and your customers involved in that, right? So you can direct them, be command control, that top-down leadership, or you can be that new digital philosophy where give the customer everything they want. And we step back from that, we treat our employees like our customers. In order to define that transformation vision, I'll bet your employees and your customers, getting them involved will help. I think you'll have a lot to say about that too as a leader, as a digital leader organization. You have a lot to say about that too, but I get information from employees and customers. So that's 3 and 4. Develop your middle managers as coaches. Right. Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, they have a lot of great content. They offer a lot of great classes to help. You can send your leaders to many of their leadership classes. The Center for Creative Leadership is also a global organization, and they provide executive education. They can help move your managers to become leaders as well. But I would focus on your middle managers. We saw the 2 papers I read, and they're under extreme pressures. And senior leadership doesn't often understand what the middle managers are all about. That's step 4. And step 5, of course, is focus on your people. And that would be what I would want to leave you from this webinar is nothing else. A potential next step is to focus on people and make it about them. I'm not saying drop all your management tasks. I'm saying people do work and computers just take orders. So helping people work better together is would be a great potential next step. That is the reason why I went back to school and got, instead of an MBA, I got my master's in counseling, because that has helped me work better with people than an MBA I think could have. So in summary, we're going to walk down the 8 points. You know who I am. My focus is on leadership and coaching. I think I've hammered home what the little surprising secret is. I can't hear you, but I'm hearing you say it's all about people, right? What does it mean to be a digital organization? All right, we saw some papers there from Gartner and MIT Sloan, but that digital philosophy where you focus on your customers. The new role of 21st century leader, if you remember that picture of the upside down pyramid where the leaders support the organization. We talked about key differences between managing and leading, where managing could be seen as doing things right. Leadership could be doing the right things. And we talked about some specific leadership behaviors you can adopt. Coaching was number 1 on my list, and we saw evidence from Google. We talked about what your next steps are, and I think now we should get into questions. And Mr. Ali, I'm gonna pass it on, the baton back onto you.
Yeah.
To see if anyone, if we still have an audience there, to see if anyone has typed in a question.
Indeed, we are there. And folks, thank you very much, Pitman, for a very, very interesting presentation. And folks, we are now open for question and answers. So if you have any questions, you could either put it in the question box, or you could equally raise your hand. There's a hand icon available on the console. Please click on it if you want to speak directly with the speaker. There are few questions already posted. First one from Celisto Brito. The question is, micromanagement is commonly seen as a non-leader behavior. However, when we speak about coaching an individual, is that all micro-leadership? I'm not sure if I understood the question. Celeste, if you could raise your hand, or if you want to speak directly, let me see. Did you get the question?
I think I might have. So so coaching is really about one-on-one conversations with people, and I think Mr. Solis, what you're talking about is, if I'm having one-on-one conversations with people, what is my topic of conversation? Am I going to find out how well they did their task? And that is a conversation that you would have as a manager. But as a leader and as a coach, you want to find out from them, especially in professional development conversation, where they want to take their career, right? This is the asking open-ended questions. This is caring about them. This is listening to what they want. And you, as a senior leader, as an experienced leader, as a mentor, can help them get to where they want to be in their career. I hope that helps get to some of that, but it's the focus on the conversation with the coachee, not what you want to have happen.
Thank you very much. And then we
I
have
hope that got that.
yeah, I guess yes, List also wrote coaching is on one-on-one conversation, so it's micro leadership versus micromanagement. So thank you very much. And let me move
Right.
to another question
Yep.
from Mr. Rajiv Chaudhary. The question is, how do you manage a CEO who is a dictator, not a leader? So how do you propagate leadership and not management? That's typical of.
Ah. Well, that is a very good question. So I'm going to write CEO who's a dictator. So that's very tricky. So if there are no internal resources available, well, let me step back. The question is, does the CEO know that they are a dictator? And my suspicion is no, because it's worked for them in the past, and it should work for them in the future. That's their mindset. I think that's a false mindset. And so if they're open to it, I'm not saying they're going to be open to it, is help bring in a 360 instrument. If there's a HR department, I know that the other leaders probably fill out 360 survey instruments, but if we can get the CEO to do that, that's a way to do that. Second is bring in an external coach. But in order to do that, CEO has got to want it. So it's a very, very tricky question. I'm not sure I'm answering it really well, because there's an old joke. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? It only takes one, but the light bulb has really, really got to want to change. So in absence of evidence for that CEO of showing him that his way is not working, it's going to be very hard to change and influence that culture. I feel like I've answered the question, but not answered the question. I don't think it's a great answer. I mean, the other thing is do you want to keep working for this company? I mean, that's a bigger question. I don't know the name of the company. Don't tell me the name of the company. But people like this exist all around the globe. And if they don't want to change, it's very, very difficult to help them change. Sorry, that's the best I can do for that question, but it's a great question. I'm sure there's more than one person with that same question.
Yes, thank you very much. And there's another one from Brother Sami Al-Dajui. The question is, what are the different roles between coaching and consulting?
That's a very good question. So I say the difference between, so we can go coaching, consulting, and there's mentoring and teaching, right? So let's say there's four, and then there's doing. There's the 5 things I can do as a professional. So doing the work, obviously, that's something that's very clear. If I need to go type up a JavaScript application, or I need to go make a sale, that's me doing the work. As a teacher, if I want to help someone be a better salesman or help someone be a better JavaScript developer, I can do that by imparting my knowledge to that person. So that's a one-way conversation, basically me saying, here's how to do it, go do it. Coaching, consulting, a little bit different skill set. Similar but different. Consulting, I would say, I'm a leadership consultant. So if you were to bring me into the conversation and say, help my organization with leadership, I would first want to assess the situation and find out what your biggest pain point is. Like, you want a consultant, what pain, what problem are you trying to address? And then I would come in and I would help you garner the skills, or either bring in some more education or bring in some more resources to help you address your problem. as a coach, it's similar, but it's on a one-on-one basis, if you would. So me, if I have a problem as a coachee, I want to have a conversation with my coach, and I might mention 1, 2, or 3 different things, 3 different problems I want to work on. And as a coach, in the back of my mind, I say, well, here's your problem. I think you should focus on number 1. And that's the consultant's mindset, if you would. You have a problem in your organization, 2 or 3 different things going on in your organization. I identify this key thing. If we change this one problem, everything else will be fixed. And that's a role of consultant. As a coach, though, if you present with 3 different problems, and I think you should work on problem number 1, and you want to work on problem number 3, my role as a coach is to help you work on problem number 3. So I focus on you. I help you get where you want to go. Again, I have to care about you and see you as creative, resourceful, and whole. And that's me helping you with your problem. As a consultant, I help corporations with their problem, but I also bring in my experience and my knowledge. And if you would, I can argue with a corporation who brings me in and say, we want to work on this problem number 1. And I say, you have 2 other problems that you also need to address if this is your pain point. So to summarize, consultant is a little bit more prescriptive, and you bring in your education and experience. And coach, it's a lot more supportive. And what it is do you want to work on versus what it is I think you should work on. So that's, I hope that helped with some of that.
Yep, thank you very much. Let me move to another one from Tradisi Halal Mart. The question is, how the digital organization manager can lead their middle manager to manage VUCA Vortex. VUCA for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Yeah, so how to lead and manage in a VUCA world. That's I love that expression, volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity. So I think a part of this is a coaching conversation, a part of this is a management, and do they have the resources available to them to help grow their skills? So in the coaching conversation slide, I had listen and validate feelings and respond and summarize the content. So validating feelings, I didn't talk much about this. And it's hard to bring this up in organizations oftentimes. But the VUCA world brings about that uncertainty. It also brings about a tremendous amount of anxiety and emotion. And so sometimes as your senior leader to this junior leader in the digital organization, just responding to them, I know this is frustrating for you, which is an emotion, right? I know there's a lot of anxiety around this, which is an emotion. I'm here to support you and get you the resources you need to do your job. That's one. Number 2, I'm here also to support you as a human being, as a person, because I know this is difficult. And if we think about our own family lives, we know we've been through some stress and anxiety in a family, and just having someone's ear and knowing that they care about you is really quite powerful. In my coaching class, I talk about validating feelings and responding to data. Here's a quick freebie if we have 2 minutes. I think we humans communicate on a couple of different channels. Channel D for data, and that's where our message is sent. That's the content of our message. And channel E for emotions. We also communicate on that channel. That's where we communicate our feelings. What I was just saying, anxiety and uncertainty, that communicates on the feelings channel. In a coaching conversation, if someone gives you a hint of anxiety and passion and emotion, you must validate that feeling on channel E before you can drop down to channel D for data, before you can address their emotion, before you can address the content of what they're saying. So as senior leaders, how can you help your junior managers manage in VUCA world? I would say two things. Address, validate their feelings. What you're feeling is normal, your anxiety and uncertainty, right? And also help procure resources for them, whether it's training or whether it's more resources to come in and do the work. Those would be two ways of handling the managing in a VUCA world. Anything else?
Well, thank you very much. And we have one last question from Brother Abdul Kabir Jimo. The question is, it's a generic question. How can quality of leadership in a company affect its profitability?
How can quality of leadership affect the profit? So a quality of leadership, and I think I showed this on one of the slides. If we think about the Gallup survey, again, this is a global Gallup, global organization that's, I think it's gathered 31 million pieces of data and put it together on employees across the world, across nationalities. That middle manager role, remember Jim Clifton, the CEO, says, naming a bad manager as a leader in your organization will impact the commitment employees feel and the kind of the dedication they have for companies. I'll throw out one resource for you that I didn't cover. It's a book called Diminishers. It's a book called Multipliers by Liz Wiseman, Multipliers. And in that book, Liz also did some global research about, and I'll do it this way. It will take 2 minutes. Think about the best manager you ever had. When I was a younger boy, I worked at a restaurant, and I loved this manager I worked for. He was a great leader. He had multiple restaurants, and he always had time for me. So if we think about multipliers, how much effort and energy did I give this manager? I gave him 90%, 100%, 110% effort and energy to this person. Then I think about the worst manager I ever had. And this was, again, my open source story. The worst manager I ever had, I really only gave 30 or 40% effort to do a good job with him. He was so oppressive. I didn't have a great relationship with him, and he didn't grow my skills. I didn't want to work for him, so I only gave him about 30 or 40% effort. The average between multipliers and diminishers, multipliers, people in their research gave about 93% effort, 87% effort. The diminishers, people with diminisher bosses, gave 46%. So you can basically double your productivity of your employees if you're a good leader. And they outline some good multiplier skills and good and as well as some bad diminisher behaviors. But those skills can be the difference between a profit of 3.5% to 5% and a profit margin of 8 to 10%. And it doesn't cost anything. All you have to do is be the manager your people want you to be. One way is to be coaches, but two is to really care about your people. And that's a generic question. If you talk about quality of leadership affecting your profit, again, organizations are made up of people. People do work. Computers just take orders. The more you take care of your people, the more you help them become better and grow their skills, the more dedicated and committed they become to your organization, and the better off for your customers and the better profit at the end of the day. So that's my answer.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pittman. That really brings us towards the end of the webinar. And I really want to thank you on behalf of the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship for taking the time to deliver this live webinar. So once again, thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. It was my pleasure. I hope the rest of your day goes well. I will be thinking about you here and wishing you nothing but the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you indeed once again for your time and for sharing this very valuable information through Miles' live webinar platform. So once again, thank you very much. And thank you all of those who participated in this webinar. We are recording it, so please stay tuned to webinar.mile.org to learn about our upcoming programs, webinars, or equally to access the recorded versions. With that note, I would like to end and conclude. So you all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling from. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.